Zinc-ers, or white bronze, isn't white. It's more of a chalky gray that over time gets progressively blue. It isn't bronze either. It's zinc, cast into the shape of whatever you would like in a mold and sandblasted to add a rough, stony texture. Bluish gray sandblasted zinc doesn't sound all that appealing in an ad. And the company selling this material and this product, the Monumental Bronze Company of Bridgeport, Connecticut, was focused hard on selling it. From 1879 until 1914, Monumental Bronze Company offered statues, grave markers, and monuments that were, in their words, beautiful in appearance and unequaled in durability. There were plenty of such businesses around at this time. Death is certain, after all. The Monumental Bronze Company set itself apart from its competitors in three ways. One was variety. Customers could get an urn-topped pillar, a St. Joseph, or an elephant holding a bushel of cigars, each one on a pedestal with 4 fully customizable panels. It was like going to a buffet where you could pick and choose the things to your liking and have them added to your monument. They also had whole muster of Civil War statues in various designs, the parts of which were also easily interchangeable. Mr. Potato Head style, quote, statue of an American soldier, was a man with a mustache and a billed cap, holding his gun in both hands. Color Bearer had a flag draped over his shoulder. Confederate Soldier, introduced in 1889, wore a broad-brimmed hat and carried a bedroll. You could also get your soldier custom-made. The Confederate Monument in Portsmouth, Virginia, has 4 Monumental Bronze Company statues on it, each fashioned to look like a local man. Another of their selling points was price. Thanks to their choice of material, as well as their distribution model, which relied on independent agents and eliminated the need for storerooms and showrooms. They could easily undersell stone-based companies. In 1890, a life-size soldier from Monumental Bronze Company would set you back $450. The equivalent of $12,000 today. Tough, but doable, especially if the whole town was chipping in. Their third claim to uniqueness, and the one that, judging by their advertising strategy, was deemed the most appealing, was that white bronze. More specifically, it was a material supposedly peerless in endurance. But the third claim to uniqueness, and one that, judging by their advertising strategy, was deemed the most appealing, was that white bronze had peerless endurance. When zinc is exposed to air, a thin patina forms over it, which protects it from weathering. Page through Monumental Bronze Company's documents, and all you will see is tales of the metal's immunity to all time's ravages, both physical and spiritual. Stone will crack, crumble, and get mossy, they argue, while bronze will not. The most durable material of which monuments or statuary have ever been made, marble is entirely out of date. Granite which requires constant expense and care, asserted in another advertisement. Many granite dealers have bought white bronze for their own burial plots. In a broadsheet themed around rundown national monuments, the company asked, "Will the American people ever learn that no stone, no matter what it is, can withstand the rigors of our northern climate?" And while said stone came in various grades, they wrote, "In white bronze there is but one quality, the best." In print advertisements, customer testimonials to this effect are stacked as high as the illustrated obelisks next to them. Many paint an image in which all history crumbles, save for the parts mankind was savvy enough to cast in white bronze. One, detailing a scene at San Francisco's Presidio Army Base, is particularly stark. The white bronze soldier monument looks as majestic as ever. It reads, while all around lie large marble and granite monuments, cracked and broken. Along with the good reviews and morbid rhetoric, the company also brought out some bigger guns. Scientists, metallurgists, government chemists, and other experts were apparently eager to predict, with varying degrees of preciseness, how long a white bronze statue might stand. "I can see no good reason why these monuments should not last as long as the pyramids of Egypt," wrote Professor J.W. Armstrong of the New York State School. Others went thousands of years, or simply ages. Weather and vegetation could also try their worst. It will not be altered by the action of any constituents of the atmosphere, wrote Professor E.P. Harris of Amherst College, nor will it absorb the moisture and become coated with mossy plants. As one broadsheet sums up, white bronze is endorsed by scientists. Stone is not. This marketing strategy clearly worked. Although specific numbers are hard to come by, the Monumental Bronze Company thrived for decades, eventually expanding its operations to Detroit, Chicago, Ontario, and Louisiana. In 1921, the company's home newspaper, the Bridgeport Telegram, reported that they were doing enormous business, especially in the South and West. According to the company, their soldier statues, which they called a specialty, eventually appeared in 31 of the then 48 states. Newspaper items announced their arrival in cities, towns, both north and south, and they were invariably positive. "The color is Confederate gray," one reviewer from Houston enthused of the white bronze. The most common damage to zinc cemetery monuments is breakage of the brittle metal and separation at seams where the components were joined at the foundry. The most common damage to zinc cemetery monuments is breakage of the brittle metal and separation at seams where components were joined at the foundry. This can usually be remedied by soldering or other metallurgic repair techniques, or by using epoxy or polyester resins. Zinc is subject to creep, a permanent deformation over time, which may become visible when loadings are appreciable. Small white bronze markers may begin to bulge when foundations are inadequate, and large monuments may become insecure and unstable. Irreparable damage invariably results. The pouring of concrete inside sagging monuments in an attempt to provide support should be avoided at all cost. Stainless steel armatures should be installed instead. Corrosion is a potential problem for any metal monument, especially in highly polluted or seaside environments. Nonetheless, white bronze monuments, which were meant to remain unpainted, survive remarkably well. Perhaps this is because the cast metal was relatively pure, more than 99% zinc, and the joining metal was also composed of zinc. For statues of the type that were originally painted, corrosion can be limited by regular painting. The Gar Monument in Pottstown, PA, provides an excellent example of a new bronze finish on a statue that was originally bronze. In contrast to these painted finishes, copper plating on zinc invariably results in severe pitting, without good options for remediation when monuments are outdoors. In the case of copper-plated zinc statues of the City of New York Civil War monument, pitting was so severe that the statues recently were copied in bronze and the originals placed indoors. With the advent of World War I, brought the close to the zinc funerary monuments. The requirement of foundries and other molds and machinery for the war effort required that this company no longer was functional. They did go out of business later. However, you can go to any cemetery and you can probably find these monuments. They'll be in the older section. They do tend to give off a bluish-green hue, and you can tell that there is a difference between them and the other stones. If you're not sure, just do what I did in this video. Go on up to it and give it a knock. It is Halloween after all. You may get a knock back.
The cemetery we're going to visit next is Oak Grove Cemetery. It is off the 90 highway in Tomah, Wisconsin, and I highly recommend that you go to your local cemetery. Look for one of these Zinc-ers, maybe you'll find one. If not, at least go and check out the cuttings, look at the different markings on the stones, and you never know, you might actually find somebody famous from your cemetery and your local town. The next one is going to be the Zinc-er that I found in Oak Grove. I looked around and I couldn't find any others. This is the only Zinc-er there in Oak Grove Cemetery. And as you look at the photos, you'll see the bluish gray color. I went from a distance and got closer up, and it really stands out from the other markers. It is very easy to find them. You just have to walk around a little bit. It will not take long before they jump out at you, and once you see them, you'll always be able to find them. So this is another example of the Zinc-er. This is in the Tomah, Wisconsin cemetery, but you can see the damage where this part here has extended out from the way that it used to be completely flat. You can see the major seam breakage as well as this warping here. And again, there's more warping here, and that is from, so I'm going to back up so you can see the obelisk. But that is a lot of weight that is pressing down on the base. Now the base is concrete. The base has a concrete patch. But the item itself is made of hollow zinc. And not to be disrespectful to anybody, but there's the family: James, Sarah, Lewis. I just noticed, got all the way to 79. Back in the early 1900s, that was a good one.
and Jane Z. But if you take a look around at this other obelisk, you'll see the amount of fungal growth that is on this. Even a newer one, like this, has a lot of algae right up here on the top where it's growing. Even on this broken stone, you can see all of the algae and fungus that's growing on it right up here. So that was the big seller when it came to zinc, is that zinc did not have the same amount of growth on it. Because again, it is sandblasted zinc. And that's why it has that same rough hue like that. So looking at it again, Sarah looks like she was the first one that was interred around here for 1862. (1886) was James Barnes. 1900 was Lewis S. Barnes. Jane Z, wife of L.S. Barnes, was 1883. So for the sake of argument, 20 years difference between this one and the Kibbe, which is over there. But you can see the amount of wear on that stone and fungal and moss growth versus this. This has been here the same amount of time, ballpark, round number, and there's absolutely no fungal growth on it. So this is a stone monument, probably sandstone, I'm not really sure, but Kibbe? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but you can see the amount of wear and damage, and I'm presuming that this is just weathering, but that is really weird weathering for this stone. And you're talking 1888 for when this was produced, when this was put here, versus the Barnes that we looked at earlier. And that Barnes one, I think the earliest, I'm gonna have to look at it again, the earliest grave was at 1900. So it's not that much of a difference. But it's very weird, and I'm presuming because it is sandstone, and it's also very porous. And because it's very porous, it also allows all this growth in very strange, looks like worms. It's not, but that's what it looks like in the way of a wear pattern. And then you can also see all the algae growth and the moss growth. And then this looks like J. Kirby, and I cannot even tell what the death date was because of the wear.
Now this stone is interesting, and there's another one that we'll take a look at later. But when you see these type of headstones that look like they're half finished, the monument maker didn't get fed up and quit halfway through the job. When you see a half carved headstone such as this, it represents the transition from life into death. Additionally, half carved stones convey the idea that while we may accomplish many things during our life on earth, we have even more to learn and to do in the afterlife. So headstones like these symbolically remind us not to place too much importance on what we do here, what we don't achieve during our life, because we still have a lot more polishing to do as we transition into the afterlife. In other words, on the soul level, we're still as rough as the uncarved portion of the rocks as we transition into the afterlife. That part of us will become as polished and refined as the rest of us. And this is the other stone It's interesting that these two stones were very similar and very close to each other, this being Cuthlow. And you can also see the mold and fungus and algae and everything else that's growing on the stone. And when we head back to the other stone, you'll actually see all that fungus. And all of that is not on our Zinc-ers because the zinc actually inhibits the growth of mold, fungus, and the such. This is our local cemetery, Riverside Cemetery in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. And I did find a Zinc-er here, and this is actually the Cheney tombstone. And we're going to take a look at it here in a minute in the video clip. And again, I did it far away, get a little closer, and then a little more detailed, because I wanted you to actually be able to see what it's like to take a look out on a cemetery and look for those weird bluish gray stones that identify it as a Zinc-er, so you can go right to them and find them.
So again, here's the Cheneys, and at a distance, just so you can see what the stones look like in comparison to the others. From a distance, you can kind of tell if you catch it just right. Regular stones, let's say this one, you'll see the light, the sun glisten off them. So that's how you know it's actually granite. Some kind of cut marble in comparison to the Zinc-er, which is that same flat Confederate gray type of color. It's pretty neat.
So the reason why I said you need to go check out your local cemetery, not only for the Zinc-ers or other neat stones that you might find, but you never know what kind of hometown hero you're going to find. My cemetery is Riverside Cemetery in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, and our hometown hero is Phil Hogstadt. And he was born on the 23rd of February 1924 in Black River Falls. He was a Major League Baseball player, stood 6 foot 2 inches, and he played for the New York Dodgers in 1947. So if you take a look to the left of his tombstone, you will see what looks like a ruptured duck. And that's the colloquial term for the Honorable Service lapel pin that was awarded to U.S. military service members who served and were honorably discharged during World War II. This pin was awarded between September 1939 and December 1946. The lapel pin was given to service members who were honorably discharged, and it featured an eagle design that some interpreted as looking like a duck with its breast seemingly ruptured from the circle, hence the nickname. It was officially called the Honorable Service Lapel Button, and it was designed by sculptor Anthony D. Francisi. So when you're walking around your local cemetery, look for things like that. It lets you know that this person served in the military, and there's other ones as well. So get out there, start exploring, and see what you can find.